This LCL report brought to you by my newest jewelry. Here's the Alpha Omega sign on a cross. Here's an antiqued ring with the Gadsden snake. Also antiqued here is the porcupine from the Free State Project. This is the Byte Style logo from Shelley Roche's Byte Style TV. And here it is in silver, pure silver. Also we have a cross with a nail cross with the anarchy sign telling the government to stay out of your religion. Hello everybody, this is Taryn Lupa with Low Country Liberty Report. Now when I was covering the Jekyll Island, or Jekyll Gate as it became known, that meeting down in, if you don't know where that is, it's a little island off the coast of Georgia where the Federal Reserve got started. I found an interesting side story. They had a sea turtle rescue area and a whole exhibit you could go through, but it was actually a working hospital. They were actually doing surgeries on the sea turtles right there, and you could go and see what their work was. Now I am torn because they have different ways they fund themselves. They have a bookshop, which, you know, they sell souvenirs and stuff. They sell the tour. They also raise money privately through donations, but they also take a grant. Now, a grant is really taxpayers' money in disguise. It's just called a grant, but be very clear, you're getting it from other people. And I want to see charities like this move all the way into the private direction where they get funded completely voluntarily instead of taking other people's money by force. So I want to encourage this because I think it's a great charity and I want to see these turtles get help. I just want to see a different way to do it. I'm hoping to encourage them to move to a voluntary system. So I'm going to take you to some of the scenes here.
Story that is really interesting that's going on down here is when sea turtles are brought into us, many times the sea turtles are injured. We work with turtles that come from as far away as Labrador or the Florida Keys or the Gulf of Mexico. And when the animals are brought into us, many times they are victims of what's called boat strikes, meaning that they are injured by propellers from large ships or boats that are out in the Sound. When this happens, there's a gouge or a cut in the carapace or the shell. And one of the ways that these animals are treated is that that gouge, after it's cleaned out and the animal has been examined, they put honeycomb in the gouge. And by doing this, honeycomb sucks out the bacteria that's in the wound and waterproofs the wound for a period of 6 to 7 days. And when this happens, not only is the bacteria sucked out, but the chemical reaction is the sugar sucking the salt out of the wound of the animal. And when you go back to the Turtle Center, you'll see some of our turtles that have bandages on the carapace. And when those bandages are removed underneath, then what they can find is that special honeycomb, and that is an ancient thing that goes back to the days of ancient Rome. And that's something that I never realized before. We also put radios on the backs of turtles, and we use hot glue guns to do this. And when a class adopts a turtle, they get a bi-weekly update on where the turtle is. And we can follow the turtle for up to a year. Every time the turtle surfaces to breathe, it sends out a radio signal that's picked up by a satellite in outer space. So the kids in the classrooms that adopt these turtles can track them all over the Atlantic Ocean. And we have turtles that we track into the Gulf of Mexico, south of the Florida Keys, and across the Sargasso Sea to the west coast of Africa. And being an old teacher, I taught for 40 years, I'm very much interested in educating kids and having kids come in and take advantage of some of the programs that we have. I mentioned to you before that the sea turtles were injured by boat propellers. Some of our sea turtles are also called what we call cold stunned. In other words, they are too far north up around Boston, Labrador, when the temperature of the water goes way down in the fall, and they suffer a type of reptile hypothermia. When that happens, they are brought back here to the Sea Turtle Center. And remember in the days when your mom was cooking a turkey and she used to build like a tent in the oven? We build aluminum foil tents with heat lamps and try to raise the temperature of the turtles so we can get the body temperature up because they're cold-blooded. Another reason that turtles come here is because they have what's called debilitating sea turtle syndrome, which in very simplistic terms is a type of infection or flu. So our turtles are treated for the boat strikes, they are treated for debilitating sea turtle syndrome, and they're treated for a type of reptile hypothermia. And the last story that I want to talk to you about is last summer we had approximately 243 terrapins that were hit by cars out here on the causeway. And when that happens, we bring the terrapins back here, and if we can save the female terrapins' lives, we do that. If we can't save the life, we extract the eggs and we put them in incubators. But what is really interesting is the male turtles stay in the water. So it's the females, when they're building nests, that come up on the causeway, and those are the ones that are hit by cars. The gender of a turtle is determined by the temperature of the environment that the egg is in. So when we extract the eggs, naturally we don't want to replace male turtles. They're not the ones that have been killed. We want to replace female turtles, so we have the higher temperatures in the incubators. So a lot of stuff like that is going on here at the Georgia Sea Turtle Center, and people are learning more and more about the environment, about the way that they interact with it, and about the way that we can save all the animals, not just sea turtles, here on Jekyll Island. The Atlantic oystercatcher is a bird that resembles a seagull, except it has red beak and red legs. And normally the oystercatcher lays 3 eggs on or close to the ground. And when the eggs are laid, that's when the predators really seek to destroy the eggs. So one of the things that we're doing here at the center is we are going in and we are substituting 2 dummy eggs for 2 real eggs. And we bring the 2 real eggs back here and put them in incubators. And when they're getting ready to hatch, then we go back and we do the old switcheroo again. And by doing this, we are increasing the number of Atlantic oystercatcher birds that we have in the area. That's one of the things that I think is really interesting. Another thing that we're working with is rattlesnakes, and we have a lady who is working on her dock in South Carolina. And this lady has asked us to implant radios in rattlesnakes so that we can track them in their shrinking habitat. And when this happens, you bring the rattlesnake in, and in order to anesthetize it, you have to put its head in a type of hose. And so it takes 3 people to do this, and you have one guy that's holding the head, you have another one that is monitoring the heart, and you have a third guy back at the tail. And he's holding this tail of this snake that is rattling. Well, the one that I observed was so cool because it took 14 minutes for the rattlesnake to quit rattling. And all the time he was on the table, the rattle was going like this. And finally, when he got the snake to sleep, then the doctor came in and he made incisions in the rattlesnake. You can't implant a radio on a rattlesnake because a snake sheds its skin. So what you have to do is implant the radio inside the rattlesnake. In order to do that, you have to use dental tools. And so what he was using was the tools that the dentist would use to make the incision to implant that tiny radio that was just about the size of the cap on a pen. And the snake woke up in the middle of the surgery. And so what they had to do was anesthetize the snake a second time. So by doing that, it was really interesting to watch it. And then at the end of about a day and a half to 2 days, the snake was taken back and released in its habitat. And this is a really interesting study that this lady is doing, because the goal is to teach human beings to live with dangerous animals and not necessarily have that automatic reflex of killing the animal or defending themselves against the animal. So we're working on shrinking habitats and re-educating people to share habitats with animals.
They certainly do a whole lot of things there.